Good afternoon, class. I'm Kirani and I'm from Group 4. Today we're going to present Chapter 8, Training and Developing Employees. The chapter is divided into 6 sub-chapters. As you can see, we'll be discussing the orienting and onboarding of new employees, the training process overview, the implementation of training programs, the implementation of management development programs, the managing of organizational change programs, and the evaluation of the training effort. So let's start with the orienting and onboarding of new employees. People might not realize how important employee orienting actually is. Even high potential employees wouldn't be able to perform if they don't know what to do or how to do it, which utters the entire purpose of orientation and training. So what is employee orientation? Employee orientation is the procedure for providing new employees with basic background information about the firm, such as company rules and computer passwords and many other things. This enables them to carry out their jobs more effectively. Furthermore, it's also supposed to give the employees somewhat of an emotional attachment to the firm, thus increasing their engagement. The 4 main goals of orientation consist of 1. Make the new employee feel welcome and at home and part of the team. 2. Make sure the new employee has the basic information to function effectively, such as email access, like the company's emails, personal policies and benefits, and expectations in terms of work behavior. 3. Help the new employee understand the organization in a broad sense. This means the company's past, present, the company's culture, and the strategies and vision for the future. 4. And the last one is to start socializing the person into the firm as soon as possible. And this means that he also learns the ways of doing things within the firm. Now let's look at the orientation process. The length of the orientation program depends on what you cover, but they all approximately last for several hours. The human resource specialist starts out by explaining the basic matters such as working hours and benefits, and from here on the supervisor will proceed the orientation by going into depth on the department's organization and also familiarizing the employees with one another in order to create a sense of trust and comfort. There are many different kinds of orientation programs, but they all must at least provide information on employee benefits, personnel policies, safety measures, and regulations, and also a tour on the facilities of the firm. All new employees must also receive an employee handbook. This can either be done physically or through a PDF online. It's important for supervisors to be observant and to follow up and encourage all employees to engage in activities that will enable them to learn the ropes. As I stated before, employees must all receive an employee handbook. But what exactly is an employee handbook? It's basically a book given to the employees by an employer, containing job-related information. Courts may even find that the employee handbook's contents are legally binding commitments. However, a firm must be careful with the contents of the book. Many statements must be avoided and many disclaimers must be placed. The last topic I'll be discussing is the orientation technology. So, as we all know nowadays, almost everything is done online. So it's no surprise that employers use technology to support orientation. Technology simplifies and enables orientation to go about more efficiently. Several examples of this include Gojek, who has implemented the orientation of their new drivers through videos and PDF downloads you can find online, like the employee handbook. And Ion Geographical uses online onboarding portal solutions, which includes a streaming video with a welcome message and photo and profiles of all their new colleagues. There are many other instances, but all in all, the purpose of using technology in orientation is the efficiency and speed it carries. So this was all for my part. Thank you for listening.
Now we're going to talk about training process overview. Training means giving new or current employees the skills that they may need to perform their job. It might involve training classes or having the current job holder to explain the job to the new hire. Employers must also give proper training in order to avoid negligent training, while also making sure that the employees have the skills that they claim to have. Evaluation of training for jobs is also important to ensure that it actually reduces the job's risks, especially with jobs that handles dangerous equipments. And the next topic is aligning strategy and training. Strategic alignment is a process of prioritizing the goals and missions of an organization's training activities around the business needs of the firm, and ensuring that learning helps drive business results. A firm's training must be in accordance with its planning. An example, Walgreens is a pharmacy that broadened their offerings, which resulted to them changing their training plans. Walgreens opened Walgreens University that offers programs about store managerial skills to programs that can get college credit and pharmacy-related topics. And then there is training process. The employer should also use a rational training process. The gold standard here is still the basic ADDIE, or ADDIE for short, training process model that training experts have used for years. The A stands for analyze the training need. The first D stands for design the overall training program. The second one stands for develop the course, or actually resembling and creating the training materials. The I stands for implement training, by actually training the target employee groups using methods such as on-the-job or online training. And finally, the E stands for evaluate the course's effectiveness. And then there's conducting the training needs analysis. The first one is strategic training needs analysis. It's basically a process of identifying the training employees will need to fill these jobs. And then there is current training needs analysis. Analyze whether the current training plans are already correct. The third one is task analysis for training needs. Task analysis is a detailed study of the job to determine what specific skills the job requires, like reading spreadsheets for a clerk. The fourth one is competency profiles and models in training and development. The competency model consolidates, usually in one diagram, a precise overview of the competencies someone would need to do the job well. And finally, there's performance analysis, analyzing current employees' training needs. Performance analysis in the process of verifying that there is a performance deficiency and determining whether the employer should correct such deficiencies through training or some other means like transferring the employee. And then here are the steps to design the training program. First one is setting learning objectives. Training, development, learning, or more generally, instructional objectives should specify in measurable terms what the trainee should be able to do after successfully completing the training program. The second one is creating a motivational learning environment. Learning requires both ability and motivation, and training programs design should accommodate for both. And then there is make the learning meaningful. Learners are more motivated to learn something that has meaning for them. We as employers must make sure that the skills or knowledge that we're trying to pass to the employees actually relates to the job itself. And then the fourth one is make skills transfer obvious and easy. There are things that employers could do to ease the training, such as maximizing the similarity between the training situation and the work situation. And some study shows that people learn better when they are learning at their own pace. So employers could give the freedom of choosing their own pace for the employees. The fifth one is reinforce the learning. Make sure learners got a lot of feedback. We could do this by having an assessment test at the end of the day, or a simple well done when they did a job. And the sixth one is ensure transfer of learning to the job. And finally, there is other training design issues. What it means by other training design issues is that employers could pick from a lot of alternative methods to train their employees. And finally, it's about developing the program. Program development means actually assembling the program's training content and materials. it means choosing the specific content the program will present, as well as designing or choosing the specific instructional methods you will use, such as lectures, cases, web-based, and so on. Finally, once you design, approve, and develop the program, management can implement and then evaluate it.
Okay, my name is Ridho Aruna Kolam, and now I'm going to present about the third subtopics of this presentation, which is implementing training programs. The first one is on-the-job training. It means by training a person to learn a job while working on it. There are three types. The first one is coaching or understudy method. Here, an experienced worker or the training supervisor will train the employees. The second one is job rotation. Usually, management trainees will move from job to job at planned interval. And last one is special assignment, which is similarly give lower level executive first-hand experience in working on actual problems. There are 4 steps on doing the on-the-job training. The first one is prepare the learner. Next one, present the operation. And the third step is do a tryout, and the last one is follow-up. Next one is apprenticeship training. It is a process by which people become skilled workers, usually through a combination of formal learning and long-term on-the-job training, often under the tutelage of a master craft person. Here is some popular apprenticeship: chef, carpenter, electrician, dental assistant, paramedic, etc. Next one is informal learning. Survey estimates that as much as 80% of what employees learn on the job they learn through informal means, including performing their jobs while interacting every day. Employers can facilitate informal learning. For example, one Siemens plant places tools in cafeteria areas to take the advantage of the work-related discussion taking place. So the next training is called job instruction training. It listing each job basic tasks along with key points in order to provide step-by-step training for employees. Here on the right side of your screen, there is steps and key points. The steps is used to show the trainees what they have to do, and the key points is show how it's to be done. Lectures. Lecturing is a quick and simple way to present knowledge to large group of trainees, as when the sales force needs to learn new product features. Here is some guidelines for presenting a lecture. First one, don't start out on the wrong foot. For instance, with an irrelevant joke. Second one, speak only about what you know well. And third one, maintain eye contact with the audience. This training is called program learning and behavior modeling. Program learning is a systematic method for teaching job skills, involving presenting questions or facts, allowing the person to respond, and giving the learner immediate feedback on the accuracy of his or her answer. Program learning reduces training time. It also facilitates learning by letting trainees learn at their own pace, get immediate feedback, and reduce their risk of error. Behavior modeling is a training in which trainees are first shown good management techniques in a film, are asked to play roles in a simulated situation, and are then given feedback and praised by their supervisor. There are 4 basic procedures. First, modeling, and then second one is role-playing, third one is social reinforcement, and the fourth one is transfer of training. As you can see on the left side of your screen, it is audio-visual based training. Although increasingly replaced by a web-based method, audio-visual based training techniques like DVDs, films, PowerPoint, and audio tapes are still used. For example, Ford Motor Company uses videos in its dealer training session to simulate problems and reaction to various customer complaints. On the right side of your screen, there is vestibule training. With vestibule training, trainees learn on the actual or simulated equipment but are trained off the job. vestibular training is necessary when it's too costly or dangerous to train employees on the job. Putting new assembly line workers right to work could slow production, for instance. And when safety is concerned, as with pilots, simulated training may be the only practical alternative. Next one is electronic performance support system. Sets of computerized tools and displays that automate training, documentation, and phone support. Integrate this automation into applications and provide support that's faster, cheaper, and more effective than traditional methods. Performance support systems are modern job aids. Job aids are sets of instructions, diagrams, or similar methods available at the job site to guide the worker. Here is computer-based training. Training methods that use interactive computer-based systems to increase knowledge or skills. The system lets trainee replay the lessons and answer questions, and is especially effective when paired with actual practice under a trainer-watchable eyes. These are the advantages for computer-based training. First one is reduce learning time. Second one, cost effectiveness. And last one is instructional consistency. And the last one is distance and internet-based training. There are three types. First one is teletraining. It is a trainer in central location teaches groups of employees at remote locations via TV hookup. Second one is video conferencing. It is interactively training employees who are geographically separated from each other via a combination of audio and visual equipment. And last one is training via the internet. Using the internet or proprietary internal intranet to facilitate computer-based training. That's all for me. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Amirega Sanda, and I'm going to present the fourth objective of this chapter, which is implementing management development programs. It lists and discusses 4 management methods. Management development is any attempt to improve managerial performance by imparting knowledge, changing attitudes, or increasing skills. There are 4 management development methods, which consist of strategy, succession planning, candidate assessment and 9-box grid, and managerial on-the-job training and rotation. The first is strategy's role in management development. Management development programs should reflect the firm's strategic plans. For example, strategies to enter new businesses or expand overseas imply that the employer will need succession plans in place to obtain and or develop managers who have the skills to manage these new businesses. Management development programs then impart the knowledge, attitudes, and skills these managers will need to excel at their jobs. Second is succession planning. Management development is often part of the employer's succession planning process. It involves developing workforce plans for the company's top positions. It is the ongoing process of systematically identifying, assessing, and developing organizational leadership to enhance performance. Succession planning programs involve several stages. First, an organization projection is made. Here, based on the company's strategic and business plans, top management and the human resource director identify what the company's future key position needs will be. Next, HR and management review the firm's management skills inventory to identify the management talent now employed. These inventories, you may recall, contain data on things like education and work experience, career preferences, and performance appraisals. At this stage, management replacement charts may be drawn and management may decide that one or more outside candidates should be recruited as well. This summarizes potential candidates for each of your management slots as well as each person's development needs. Management then turns to the development stage of the succession planning process. This means providing possible candidates with the developmental experiences they require to be viable candidates. Employers develop high potential employees through internal training and cross-functional experiences, job rotation, external training, and global or regional assignments. Finally, succession planning requires assessing all these candidates and selecting those who will actually fill the key positions. The third method of management development is candidate assessment and the 9-box grid. The 9-box grid is one tool. This example shows potential from low to medium to high on the vertical axis and performance from low to medium to high across the bottom. A total of 9 possible boxes. The grid can simplify somewhat the task of choosing development candidates. And the last method of management development is managerial on-the-job training methods, which include job rotation, the coaching or understudy approach, and action learning. Job rotation means moving managers from department to department to broaden their understanding of the business and to test their abilities. While in coaching or understudy approach, the trainee works directly with a senior manager or with the person he or she is to replace. The latter is responsible for the trainee's coaching. Normally, the understudy relieves the executive of certain responsibilities, giving the trainee a chance to learn the job. And action learning programs give managers release time to work analyzing and solving problems in departments other than their own. It is reportedly the fastest growing leadership development technique today. Its basics include carefully selected teams of 5 to 25 members, assigning them real-world business problems that extend beyond their usual areas of expertise, and structured learning through coaching and feedback. The employer's senior managers usually choose the projects and decide whether to accept the team's recommendations. That's it from me for the fourth objective. Thank you.
Okay, so the fifth topics which I'm going to discuss is about managing organizational change programs. The objective is to list and briefly discuss the importance of the steps in leading organizational change. So companies often find it necessary to change how they do things. Organizational change may impact a company's strategy, structure, technologies, and the attitudes or skill of the employee. So what is change management? So change management is the systematic approach and application of knowledge, tools, and resources to deal with change. It involves defining and adopting corporate strategies, structures, procedures, and technologies to handle changes in external conditions and the business environment. The primary goals of change management is to successfully implement new process, products, and business strategies while minimizing negative outcomes. So psychologist Kurt Lewin formulated a model to summarize the basic process for implementing a change with minimal resistance. To Lewin, there are two kinds of forces. The first one is those who striving to maintain the status quo, and those who pushing for a change. Implementing change means reducing the force for the status quo or building up the forces for a change. So there are 3 steps of changes in Lewin's change process. The first one is unfreezing, which is reducing the forces that are striving to maintain the status quo, usually by presenting a provocative problems or event to get people to recognize the need for change and to search for new solutions. The second one is moving, which is developing new behaviors. values, and attitudes through organizational structure change. It involves preparing the organizations to accept that change is necessary, which involves breaking down the existing status quo before you can build up a new process of ways of operating. The third one is refreezing, which means building in the reinforcement to make sure the organization doesn't slide back to its former ways of doing things. So people start to believe and act in ways that support the new direction. So these are the steps that some experts suggest that managers use to lead an organizational change. So in the unfreezing stage, the first one is to establish a sense of urgency, is to determine what needs to be changed. The second one is to mobilize commitment through joint diagnosis of problems by creating a task force to diagnose the problems. In the unfreezing stage, there is create a guiding coalitions, because it's never easy to implement big changes alone, and there is develop and communicate a shared vision to help employees make the change, to consolidate gains and produce more change, and in refreezing stage to reinforce the new ways of doing things with changes to the company's systems and procedures. For example, by using a new appraisal systems to reinforce the desired new behaviors. And then the last one is the leader must monitor and assess progress. This involves comparing where the company or the department is with where it should be. So the next one is organizational development, which is a change process through which employees formulate the change that is required and implemented. It often with the assistance of trained consultants. The characteristic, it usually involves action research, which means collecting a data about a group, department, or even an organization, and feeding the information back to the employees so they can analyze it and develop hypotheses about what the problems might be. The second one is to apply behavioral science knowledge to improve organization's effectiveness. The third one is to change the organizations in a particular directions toward empowerment, improved problem solving, responsiveness, the quality of work, and the effectiveness of the operation. And then the goals of organizational development is to give employees the insights and skills that are required to analyze their own and other behaviors more effectively, so they can solve interpersonal and intergroup problems.
For the next slide, I will present about evaluating the training effort. When evaluating training programs, there are two basic issues. One is the design of the evaluation study, and in particular, using controlled experimentation. Designing study is about design the evaluation study. For example, like how can we be sure that the training and the result is directly proportional? And controlled experimentation is a formal method for testing the effectiveness of a training program, with before and after tests and a control group. Like I said in the previous slide, in designing study, we have to make sure the training causes the result, or directly proportional with the result, and using time series graph to assess a training program effect. In using time series graph, we can take a series of performance measure before and after the training program. This can provide some insight into the program's effectiveness. As we can see in the graph, there are significant difference between before training and after training with performance or quality of items. Before training, we can see the value is more lower than after training. Next slide is training effect to measure. Manager can measure the outcomes or effect of training with 4 basic. First is reaction. Evaluate trainees' reaction to the program. Did they like the program? Did they think it worthwhile? And second is learning. Test the trainees to determine whether they learn the principles, skills, and facts they were supposed to learn. And third is behavior. Ask whether the trainees' on-the-job behavior changed because of the training program. For example, are employees in the store's complaint department more courteous toward disgruntled customers? And fourth is result. Most important, ask what result did we achieve in terms of the training objective previously set. For example, did the number of customer complaints diminish? Reaction, learning, and behavior are important, but if the training program doesn't produce measurable performance-related results, then it probably hasn't achieved its goals. And next, this is a sample of evaluation form present one page from a sample evaluation questionnaire for assessing reaction. Or you might assess trainees' learning by testing their new knowledge. For behavioral change, perhaps assess the effectiveness of supervisory performance appraisal training program by asking that person subordinates, did your supervisor provide you with examples of good and bad performance when he or she appraised your performance most recently? Finally, directly assess a training program's result by measuring, say, the percentage of one-color question that call center trainees subsequently answered correctly. And that's all from our group. Thank you so much for your time.